How's it going, guys? Welcome back. I'm so excited to share with you today the updates of what's going on with the kitchen. We are finally done tearing apart the kitchen. Like, we officially finished demo and we've been putting it back together. So as you saw in the last update, we uncovered the original hardwood floors and unfortunately they were not salvageable. So we did consider putting in new wood floors in here, but the flooring throughout the rest of the house is a bamboo and that's not suitable for a kitchen. Obviously, it's too soft, it's not waterproof. And so ultimately we decided, so that we didn't have two different woods going on, to go ahead and do tile in here. So Luke went through and made sure to secure down all of the subfloor boards so that they were nice and sturdy, and he then installed this backer board so that we can have it all prepped for when we are doing the tile. After weeks of doing really hard work, specifically my husband, he has been such a champ and has truly carried so much of the work in this project. We felt like we needed a day of just doing some of the fun kitchen renovation stuff, so we went shopping. We went to our local architectural salvage place, which they used to have a storefront. I've actually taken you guys on a little tour of that place a couple of times. They have since closed it down, unfortunately. Just breaks my heart, but they do have a little outdoor courtyard area where they still carry some things. They've got some cool stuff. Unfortunately, they didn't have anything we were looking for, but we thought we'd take you along anyway, show you a little bit around some cool areas downtown, and then also take you countertop shopping with us. Countertops tend to be one of the more difficult decisions that you have to make during a kitchen renovation. Specifically this one, I loved when I saw the little sample, but then when I looked it up online to see kind of the full slab, I didn't like the way that it looked. So for one, you're kind of seeing such a small piece and not really getting the full feel unless you can see a full slab or look it up online. So highly suggest at least looking at pictures if you find a sample that you like. But all of the different materials have pros and cons. We decided to go with quartz. I love the look of real marble. If it had been in the budget, I would have done real marble, but quartz is a more budget-friendly option, and they have so many different options that resemble marble. So that's what we ended up going with. We've narrowed it down to 2 that we really like. I'm going to show those to you at the end of the video and tell you which one we ended up choosing. But I wanted to give you a look at kind of all of the different things that we were looking at. This has been a really exciting part of the process. It's also been a little nerve-wracking because there's a lot of decisions that are having to be made right now. Like, I've had a vision for this. I've been doing mood boards. I've been modifying my mood boards, trying different things out, and I feel like I've had a really good vision for what is to come. But it all starts to feel really overwhelming when you've got like the electrical going in, knowing exactly where things needed to be placed without actually having cabinets in, knowing exactly where to put the light fixtures. And I'm a super visual person, so not having the cabinets in place, making these decisions was difficult for me. I felt like I was questioning myself a lot on placement and all of that. So, you know, that has been something I wasn't really expecting. I wasn't expecting like that particular part of the process to be so difficult. But all in all, everything's going really well. We have had the plumber out, the electrician out. We've been without a sink and the dishwasher and the oven for about a week now. Gosh, maybe it's been a week and a half. But we're making do, we're getting by. I'll show you kind of the updated situation in the dining room, because we now have the refrigerator in the dining room. The stove is in there. That's just kind of where we're storing it. But obviously, like, our little makeshift kitchen has evolved a bit since I first shared it with you. So I kind of want to show you all of the things that have been helpful for us in having like a temporary space to use as a kitchen. It's not the prettiest, but it's getting us by. We're officially in bathroom sink rinsing territory with our pans and pots and things like that. We are using paper plates, plasticware, but of course there are still going to be cooking things that have to be rinsed off in there. So I had this idea yesterday that if I could get a rolling cart, that would be really helpful in getting things from the bathroom sink back to the dining room / kitchen. So that's what I did. I found this one at Target. It's just a little rolling cart. I don't think it's very big, but my plan is to put our dishwashing pad on one of these. It might be too big, but we're gonna try. And then I will be able to let the dishes kind of dry on there before putting them away. And then also I can keep the dish soap and the sponges and everything on this little cart. So it doesn't actually have to sit in the bathroom, because I obviously don't want the sponge we're gonna clean our dishes with living in the bathroom. You know what I mean? So I thought this would be really handy. And I thought after we're kind of done with this renovation, this would be great to kind of wheel decor from room to room when I'm decorating. So honestly, a handy little thing to have. I got it at Target. It was like 35 bucks. So I'm gonna put it together now. We're gonna see how it works. Okay, so here's our little cart all put together. I ended up ordering this little dish mat off of Amazon because I needed something that would fit it really well. But the way we're using it is we are keeping all the dirty stuff on top. I have a little basket. This is just from our dishwasher that I'm putting dirty, mostly just knives as far as the silverware goes. And then we have this stuff is kind of where we put all the clean stuff after it's washed. So I have a basket down here as well for all of the clean silverware. Down here, we kind of are just storing a few things we're not currently using, but I think this would be a great place to put like a tub. You could either store things in, or just like if you have more dirty dishes or something, you could kind of put them in there. And then I just have this little container where I keep our soap, vegetable, fruit wash, and a sponge. It's nice and slender, so it fits like pretty much on any like small wall. We're able to kind of just tuck it away. So if you're doing a kitchen renovation, highly recommend getting a little cart. It's been super helpful for us. Okay, here's the updated look of our dining room because it is now practically a full-on kitchen. We've got the refrigerator over here. I had to move the secretary's desk and the mirror that was over here out of the way just so we could fit this for now. And then we have the oven, the microwave, and the toaster over here. The oven is not working. Obviously, it's not hooked up. We don't have like that type of outlet in here, but we do have the microwave and the toaster set up. So I didn't want to store it in the sunroom or in the garage. I just felt kind of weird about storing the stove outside. I don't know. So it's tucked into this corner over here. And then as far as the buffet goes, most of this is the same with a few additions. So this is still working really well. We've got our little like coffee station over here. We have a fruit basket here, and then our air fryer, paper towels. We keep dish towels over here as well. I bought a trash can that would fit in this little space here, which is perfect. I think I grabbed this at Target. And then I also grabbed a tub just for extra snacks and things, and it fits under here so nicely. So those are kind of the additions. Most of this is still the same. I did end up having to clear this side out as well. It has dishes and cups and things like that in here. It's not obviously super well organized, but it's getting the job done. I actually have to share with you a little secret. We cheated just a tiny bit on our DIY project and hired out some work. We definitely could have saved a lot of money if we would have done this part ourselves, but we're gonna save a lot of time and have a kitchen back a lot sooner, and that trade-off to us felt worth it. So let me take you in there. Let me show you what we did. We have walls. Okay, so now that you've seen it, we had the drywallers come out. They got it done in 3 days, which would have taken us probably a minimum of 3 weeks. We have done drywall before. I think it's actually a pretty DIY friendly project. Like I definitely think it's doable, but we've never done drywall on the ceiling. For some of you that don't know, I'm 4'11". I'm a small human. So I like to think I'm, not totally weak, and I can put some strength behind things, but the fact of the matter is I'm not a big person, and I'm not a ton of help when it comes to like things that require a lot of strength. Like I said, they knocked it out in 3 days. The guys that came out and did it did a great job. There was a lot of like patching that they had to do with one wall that we were leaving, and they also primed it, so it'll be ready for paint. We had to wait no matter what until the drywall was done to do our final measurement, because we really were basing our measurements off of the room when it had its original lath and plaster, which is thicker than drywall, and also when we had the wall in the middle of the room. So we had to kind of just do our best to get measurements before everything was torn out. And so we wanted to wait till drywall was back in. We had the actual measurements of the room so that we could review our cabinet order before placing it. So no matter what, we were gonna have to wait. We were hoping to be installing cabinets this weekend, knowing that the drywall was gonna be done, but timeline just didn't really work out that way, which is fine. We're hoping that by next weekend, we will be able to do that. And that gives us time this weekend to tackle the doors. Now that the walls are all primed and ready to go for paint when we do that, the doors are looking really rough, which they always did, but they definitely are standing out now. I initially was thinking about stripping the paint off of this and staining it, but I really want this vent hood to be the focal point, and so I want your eye to be drawn over that way. So I think we're just gonna paint this. I also absolutely hate stripping paint. It's my least favorite thing to do. And so what we're gonna do is we're removing hardware. You can see we've already started. There's just a lot of paint buildup on these. So we're gonna sand them down to try to smooth out some of these areas that just have layers of paint on them. This is a super glossy paint, so we wanna rough it up, sand down those areas that really need just a smoother surface, and then get these ready to prime and paint. The other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna pull this hardware off, and we are going to soak it and get it back to what it originally looked like, which we have this throughout the house, and it's really pretty. So I'm looking forward to getting all of the paint stripped off of this. The other thing is, I think as far as the doors go, I have a box of old knobs that I found in the house when we moved in. And so I've got a bunch of crystal knobs. So I'm gonna switch this out for a crystal knob. And let's see, we also have these doors. This will actually go back to being a broom closet. We'll keep cleaning supplies, things like that in here, because we will have a pantry over here. This is our basement door. So yeah, we're not gonna pull all of the trim off if it's already up. We're just gonna kind of do that in place. So we're leaving the dust barriers up for just a little bit longer. We're really ready to like take this down, but we wanna make sure we're just all done with the dusty, dirty work before we do that. So when it comes to old houses, you always have to be cautious of lead paint. We had previously tested the paint on these doors and they were negative for lead. I retested them again prior to doing all of this sanding just to know exactly what I was working with, and I was able to test 3 different layers that were exposed that all tested negative for lead. However, once we kind of got some of the trim and stuff off, there was a dark green that was exposed in a few places, and it was all the way at the base of the wood. It did test positive for lead. So knowing that information moving forward, I was incredibly cautious about what I was sanding, how far down I was sanding. Like I said, I had 3 layers over that, and you really don't want to kick up lead dust. So I was obviously wearing PPE and then making sure that the second layer, which is kind of a light blue, if I saw any light blue, I took that as an indication to not sand anymore in that area. Again, I was just roughing up the surface to get some primer to stick to it since it was such a glossy paint, but just wanted to throw out that little reminder if you're going to do any projects with old houses that have paint, you just kind of want to be on the lookout. You can get lead testing kits on Amazon or most hardware stores. So once we finished that surface sanding, I went through with some wood filler to fill in any holes where there were old brackets, or if there was an area where the paint was still not super even, but I knew I couldn't really sand too much lower. I just kind of used this to fill in those areas, and that worked well for me. And then once it dries, you just kind of sand it down to smooth it out a bit. So they definitely still look like they're old doors, but they look much better than they did previously. And then we threw a coat of primer on them. So we haven't painted them just yet, but we have primed them so they'll be ready once we get our paint colors figured out. As far as the hardware goes, we are going to get that all back on, so you'll get to see how pretty that looks in this video. But we had them soaking in the crock pot the first day for probably 6 hours. At least, and then there were so many layers of paint that we had to kind of pull them out, scrape them, throw them back in. I did end up using citrus strip on a couple of them to try to see if that worked. And the next day, when we got to the other 2 doors, I used citrus strip on all of them, which I think was messier. Probably would go the crock pot route again, but it definitely wasn't just an easy job, and we spent many late nights in the garage doing this. So I don't have a ton of footage of us getting all of the paint off, but you will see what they look like. And you can go back in with some Brasso after you strip them of the paint and polish them up. I like the aged look, so I didn't do that, but you absolutely could. Okay, I also want to share some finishes with you. Hardware, I've got these ball knobs that I found on Amazon actually. These are a dupe for another brand that has some beautiful unlacquered brass knobs, but theirs are like $20 a piece. These I think were $13 to $14 a piece depending on what size you get. And when you're ordering a ton of them, I feel like that savings is, you know, pretty substantial. So these ones, they're supposed to be unlacquered brass. With unlacquered brass, you're gonna get kind of a natural patina to it over time. It's not gonna stay like perfect, but I think that works really well when you're doing something that should feel more antique, lived in, fitting for an old home. So that's why we chose to go with that. You can find these same kind of knobs in lacquered brass, and it would, you know, stay that like shiny and bright color forever, which is also beautiful. Just a personal preference on that. These light switches I thought were so cool. I got these from House of Antique Hardware, and the switch is sold separately from the switch plate. So they have lots of options for the switch plates and even different options for the type of switch that you're getting. We decided to go with like a traditional push switch. Now this one is a little bit different than the old push switches, because normally I think you'd push the top one, that would turn it on, and it would push out this bottom button. And then to turn it off, you would push the bottom button. But in this case, I like to have dimmers in all of the rooms, especially if I'm updating a light switch. So the bottom one is actually a dimmer, and this is just your on and off switch. So really pretty. The actual switch plate, I think they do a really nice job giving it that antique look. So I ordered a couple of these. These were definitely a bit of a splurge, but I think it's these little details that are really going to add that old world charm to it and kind of just be like the jewelry on the kitchen and just make it look a bit more high end. As far as the countertops go, you can see we have a couple of samples here. These are the two that we really liked. They didn't have samples at the local countertop place that we went to, so I actually ran and just got these from Home Depot. We were thinking about going with a black countertop, and I had so many people say you're gonna hate the watermarks and the fingerprints, and honestly, I do think I would hate that. So I fell in love with the Calcutta Viola, I believe is what it's called. It's a stunning marble. It's very expensive, so it's not in the budget. And initially when we went to go look, we were looking for something that had a bold veining in it. This is not really, I wouldn't say this is similar to it. They do have a quartz that is supposed to be more similar to Calcutta Viola, but it was also not in the price range. So this one is Calcutta Laza. She did say that this one is incredibly popular. The colors of it are really beautiful. When I saw the full slab of this though, for some reason, I looked at it and I thought this wouldn't convince me that it's real marble. Like I don't get that feeling from it. Whereas with this one, which is Prado, this one has a lot of soft veining and a lot more like natural movement, like natural stone would have in it. And so I think even though it's not as bold as we were wanting to go with, I think this is going to give a really nice high-end look to the kitchen. We are not quite at the point where we're getting countertops installed. Obviously, we have to get our cabinets all installed and all of that, which you'll be seeing in the next update. But this is the countertop that we have decided to go with.